For thousands of years, different civilizations have left their incredible mark on human history by creating unique and magnificent structures that often raise doubts and prompt reconsideration of traditional explanations regarding their origin and purpose. Historical sources and archaeological findings confirm that our ancestors sincerely aimed to preserve their cultural heritage by erecting these carefully thought out and remarkably durable megalithic structures. Many of them not only amaze us with their scale and architectural craftsmanship, but also elicit wonder among experts, prompting numerous questions about how ancient people could have achieved such impressive results. Today, we view these ancient constructions with admiration, acknowledging that they were built centuries ago. At the same time, many questions arise regarding the process of their construction. How were the heavy stone blocks, some weighing up to 100 tons, transported and installed? How could work be organized and forces distributed for such large-scale engineering tasks? Moreover, why do a vast number of monuments built in different eras and various parts of the world look so similar in architecture and structure, despite having no obvious historical or cultural connection? All of this points to a profound mystery that remains unsolved to this day. However, perhaps the most important and yet most intriguing question with no definitive answer is the higher purposeful meaning of these ancient structures. Why exactly were these monuments created? Perhaps they served not only as cult or memorial sites, but also as some kind of energy or information transfer system. There are hypotheses suggesting that the locations of pyramids and other ancient monuments are not random, but are strictly determined by strategic or energetic considerations. Their placement could be linked to specific geographic points of special significance on the global map. It is conceivable that a hidden connection exists between these structures, which remains beyond our understanding. In this context, there is a hypothesis about the existence of a once highly developed civilization possessing advanced technologies unknown to us today. This civilization, presumably, had the ability to control global processes and manage the Earth's energy, leaving behind these monumental buildings as some form of energy carriers or transmitters. It can be assumed that pyramids and megaliths functioned as energy channels interacting with the planets and cosmos's forces. Analyzing the world map and the marked locations of ancient monuments reveals that most of them can be connected, with lines forming complex geometric shapes. It creates the impression that builders in the distant past possessed deep knowledge of geometry, astronomy, and mathematics, which they used to embody their ideas in stone. Imagining that such precise shapes could have been created through simple observations becomes difficult, as they likely relied on complex calculations and knowledge passed down through generations. Today, no scientist or researcher has been able to conclusively determine who exactly constructed the pyramids of Giza and what their true purpose was. There is also a lack of convincing historical evidence to confirm that these monuments were built by the ancient Egyptians. After all, Egyptian texts rarely mention the construction of the pyramids, and inside the structures, no hieroglyphs, mummies, or other artifacts have been found that could shed light on their creators. Moreover, no traces of torches or other artificial light sources have been discovered inside the pyramids, raising questions about how the builders received light and heat, whether they used alternative energy sources, or perhaps employed a technology that has been lost over time. Recently, studies have emerged suggesting that the pyramids of Giza are much older than previously thought. This supports the hypothesis that these structures were built in eras reaching deep into antiquity, possibly even before the rise of hypothetically highly developed civilizations that existed on Earth millions of years ago. The question of how all these monumental monuments appeared around the world and how ancient people managed to craft architectural masterpieces at such an advanced level remains unanswered. Especially astonishing is the location of the Great Pyramid in Giza, right at the center of the continent, in the heart of Egypt. which seems remarkable since creating such an exact and symbolic structure required not only knowledge and skill, but also extraordinary engineering and astronomical intuition. Did you know that the parallels east-west and meridians north-south, which cross most of the landmass, on the planet coincide at two special points? One in the ocean, and the other is exactly where the Great Pyramid of Giza is located. How could it happen that all these mysterious structures are positioned at these intersection points? How could ancient builders without modern equipment, rockets or satellites, accurately align their monuments so that they contact these vital geographical lines? It is also interesting to consider how the construction of such colossal monuments, pyramids, temples, and megaliths, was carried out during periods when humanity lacked the capabilities for global exploration and worldwide movement. How did the ancient people choose locations for their structures so that they conform to specific geometric and astronomical parameters? Part 3 of 43. The remarkable accuracy with which the Great Pyramid was built, one of the most perfect of its kind, especially impresses, considering its mass reaches approximately 6 million tons. This demonstrates a high level of engineering skill and organizational culture among the ancient craftsmen. The pyramid, as one of the main symbols of the architectural and cultural power of ancient civilizations, remains an enigma for scientists, prompting them to seek new approaches and previously unknown knowledge to understand how vanished cultures managed to carry out such large-scale construction projects and preserve them for centuries. When we begin to contemplate the scale and incredible purposefulness of ancient structures, we realize that assessing their true mass and size requires applying certain mathematical measures. For example, by simplifying all indicators to a basic number and multiplying it by 10 to the 10th power, we get a fairly accurate approximate estimate of the Earth's entire weight. This is just one method of approximate calculations, helping to grasp how colossal and incomparably heavy these ancient megaliths and monuments were. However, there is an intriguing detail in this reasoning that undoubtedly deserves special attention. The coordinates of one of the most famous ancient pyramids, the Pyramid of Khufu, coincidentally match the measurement of the speed of light in a vacuum. This fact cannot go unnoticed, as such a coincidence today seems quite astonishing. How can it be explained that even now, amidst modern technologies with their complex instruments and extensive knowledge, reproducing such precision in constructing this monument would be a very challenging task? This circumstance elevates the Giza pyramids to a genuine, mysterious wonder of antiquity. It is not our intention to diminish the craftsmanship and intelligence of the creators of these ancient structures as they amaze the world with their achievements. But at the same time, a question arises. Did they really manage to accomplish such feats, building these enormous structures using only primitive tools and primitive technologies? Or perhaps, as some modern scientists and researchers suggest, they had access to knowledge and technologies unavailable to our current society, technologies that we perhaps cannot even imagine. Unconsciously, another deeper question arises. Is it possible that, centuries ago, entire cultures existed around the world that were connected to, or even subordinate to, the influence of entities whose presence is perceived today as divine manifestations or celestial messengers? These ancient gods, as they are called, may have come from the skies and influenced the development of civilizations, leaving behind mysterious monuments and symbols that are now regarded as the greatest achievements in architecture and astronomy. Before delving deeper into these mysteries, I would like to share a significant event. We are pleased to announce the grand opening of a new art gallery titled The Universe Inside You. This project serves as a bridge connecting our passion for exploration, understanding the world around us, and love for art. We invite you to explore its virtual halls and enjoy a visual exhibition. rich with historical and mythological themes related to ancient Egypt, lost civilizations, myths, and legends. In our gallery, you will find a wide collection of unique art reproductions on canvas. They seem to come alive, revealing ancient secrets and mysteries before your eyes. These works will help you feel connected to distant history and immerse you in the atmosphere of those eras. We offer you the opportunity to acquire these distinctive artworks, which will beautifully complement any interior and become a bright accent in your collection. Please note that the variety of art prints and unique pieces in our store is limited in quantity, so to ensure you don't miss the chance to own your exclusive reproduction, it's advisable to act quickly. As long as such works are available, you have the opportunity to become their owner and bring a piece of mysterious, ancient beauty into your life. In conclusion, we sincerely thank all those who support our creative endeavors and seek to discover new facets of history and art. We look forward to sharing with you the results of our work and stories of discoveries already made and those yet to come. A natural question arises: what could explain the grand construction of numerous ancient monuments scattered across the world, astonishing in their design, architecture, and precision? Why are so many of these structures, despite their geographical distance, strikingly similar to each other, and giving the impression that they were conceived according to the same plan? Perhaps these monuments did not emerge randomly. Many scientists believe that their placement across the Earth was not accidental. They seem to be magically aligned with remarkable accuracy to certain mystical or astronomical centers, indicating a purpose beyond simple human comprehension. Essentially, the astronomical alignments and precision in the orientation of these ancient megalithic sites hint at higher intentions, which we are yet unable to fully grasp. This truly captures the imagination. The geographical positioning of these temples, pyramids, lines, and altars, built thousands or even tens of thousands of years ago, demonstrates a high level of skill and knowledge of ancient civilizations. Their constructions are not only impeccable in accuracy, but also have a clear connection to celestial constellations, suggesting that astronomical knowledge was an integral part of their culture and practical life. It is very well known that the pyramids of Giza, the Nazca Lines, the mysterious statues on Easter Island, and many other archaeological monuments explicitly hint at a hidden connection, which may reveal astonishing historical stories that have remained invisible to the majority of people to this day. Could it be assumed that these secrets were recorded in the works of ancient historians, in old manuscripts, as well as in diplomatic and religious texts? So the question arises: does this particular network of geography and architecture have a special link to some great and mysterious meaning, which may have been lost over time? Can we consider it mere coincidence that ancient and modern monuments and structures appeared precisely in those locations where they are? Or perhaps behind this pattern lies a deeper connection, leading us to ancient civilizations such as the Egyptians, Mayans, Almohads, Incas, and many other peoples who lived over thousands of years. I dare to suggest that these civilizations did not simply choose the locations of their temples, cities, and monuments at random, but were guided by something else: a connection with cosmic energies. Ancient people believed they had a link with more advanced beings possessing knowledge that is now accessible to us only in vague outlines. These higher forces, in their view, helped them construct great structures, cities, temples, and monuments at specific astronomical points on Earth's surface. For many centuries, such ideas remained mere conjectures, shrouded in mystery. But in recent years, scientists have begun to approach an understanding of how plausible this hypothesis might be. Their research indicates that this global connection with the cosmos actually existed, and that many ancient monuments were created not only for religious purposes, but also as kind of landmarks or maps pointing to special spots on the planet linked with celestial bodies. According to some theories, all major monuments, such as pyramids, megalithic structures, or islands, were either built by gods or erected in their honor. So believed the ancient peoples. But then, why did they attribute these magnificent structures to gods if they were built by ordinary people, often using specialized knowledge and techniques? Why was human genius, craftsmanship, and labor not recognized as the foundation? In ancient Rome, architects, engineers, and builders took pride in their work: aqueducts, magnificent temples, roads, and amphitheaters. They never claimed to have created them by the will of divine powers. In fact, they considered themselves talented artisans, engineers, and architects. However, despite these achievements, it is hard to imagine that the Romans could have built something that matches the awe-inspiring magnitude and complexity of the Giza Pyramid or other similar ancient structures. Part 6 of 43. In this context, it is particularly fascinating to observe what might be even more incredible in the world. The Bosnian Pyramid, which many researchers believe to be the largest in the world, represents yet another captivating chapter in the mysterious history hidden within a large circle of ancient astronomical alignments. Overall, many ancient monuments, such as Easter Island with its famous statues, the Nazca Lines in the Peruvian plains, the enigmatic constructions of Atlantis, and especially the majestic pyramids of Giza, all are aligned in such a way that they form a powerful line, like an endless chain connecting different parts of the world. Their construction along a single line could indicate some form of connection, deeper and more complex than mere coincidence. Perhaps these structures were built to point to a more meaningful purpose, invisible to our modern perspective. Equally intriguing is the question of whether these ancient edifices are aligned with the positions of stars and constellations in the sky. It has long been known that humanity from very ancient times observed the stars and created complex calendars to track their movements. Every primitive people and ancient culture essentially sought to understand how celestial bodies move and how these motions relate to life on Earth. A crucial part of this was the belief that we, humans, are indeed descendants of the stars. That is why symbols on the walls of ancient temples and in ritualistic images often remind us of our cosmic origins. Egyptian hieroglyphs, sometimes interpreted as cosmic codes, as well as mysterious depictions of flying objects on temple and tomb walls, are not accidental. Modern researchers note the amount of time and effort invested in studying the movements of celestial bodies, in contrast with ancient people who poured their knowledge into understanding the secret paths of the cosmos, creating intricate calendars based on the appearance and disappearance of stars and constellations. In many ancient mythologies and rituals, there are references to the human connection with the heavens, to magical and sacred knowledge passed down from generation to generation, all evidence of a high level of interest in the stars and their significance in ancient people's lives. These legends are often linked to the belief that our ancestors arrived on Earth from higher celestial realms, or were created under their guidance. In places where such stories originated, there are structures that clearly correspond to the arrangements of stars and constellations, helping us understand what knowledge and perceptions our ancestors held about the cosmos. One of the most prominent and recognizable constellations in the night sky, with special significance for ancient peoples, is the constellation of Orion. It is located near the celestial equator and can be easily observed from any point on the planet, making it one of the most noticeable and recognizable constellations for observers from different continents. In ancient Egyptian sources, which are considered some of the oldest religious texts, there is a belief that gods descended from specific star belts, such as the Orion Belt and the Sirius constellation, in the form of humanoid beings. The three famous pyramids in Giza are truly some of the most mysterious and majestic structures ever built by mankind. They represent not only architectural perfection, but also symbols of a profound connection between earth and sky, as it is believed by scholars and mystics that they were precisely aligned with the starry heavens. These pyramids form a sort of structure that, in essence, functions as a three-dimensional map of the celestial world, a depiction engraved in stone. Additionally, in the vicinity of the Orion constellation, particularly in the area of its belt, entire complexes of pyramids and other architectural monuments have been constructed. So-called megalithic structures that clearly demonstrate the builder's knowledge of star positions and their relationship to terrestrial objects. These unique constructions are located just a few miles south and north of the modern borders of Cairo and Mexico City, emphasizing their connection to specific astronomical alignments and points on the world map. Researchers note that the two largest pyramids in this region perfectly align with the brightest stars comprising the Orion constellation, serving as its astronomical landmarks. As a result of their studies, it has become clear ancient builders intentionally designed these monuments to precisely correspond to star positions, offering hope that we, modern humans, can reconnect with the past by recognizing the symbols and signs left by our ancestors. There are ruins of the majestic and mysterious city of Teotihuacan here, one of the northern wonders of the ancient world, associated with star maps and cosmic symbols. During its peak, this city was one of the most significant centers of civilization, with a population estimated by archaeologists to reach hundreds of thousands, roughly from 50,000 to 200,000 people, making it one of the largest metropolises of its time. However, the origin of this astonishing city remains shrouded in mystery. No one to this day knows for sure who exactly planned and built it. Initially, it was constructed manually by an entire people over 1,000 years before the arrival of the Native American tribes, now called the Otomi, in central Mexico. Like many sacred sites of ancient civilizations, the monuments of Teotihuacan were created with special attention to the starry sky and the cosmos. The city's architecture clearly shows a connection with astronomical phenomena and celestial orbits. Covering an area of just over 3 square kilometers, the complex consists of 3 pyramids, 2 large ones and a smaller one, each with its own unique role and symbolism. For example, 2 larger pyramids are aligned in such a way that their exact orientation coincides with Orion's belt, the famous constellation that held special significance for ancient civilizations. This alignment supports the theory that astrological concepts and astronomical knowledge were integral parts of their culture, and that the construction of monuments was connected with knowledge of the positions of star groups. In this sense, the architecture of ancient structures resembles precise instruments built according to cosmic analogies, and their striking resemblance to the arrangement of pyramids in Egypt, such as Giza, indicates a certain international commonality of knowledge or influence among different cultures. Equally interesting is the fact that Teotihuacan, despite its antiquity, accurately reflects the structure of our solar system. Some researchers refer to it not merely as a city, but as a complex cosmic computer, or microplanetary map created by ancient builders. The entire complex is believed by some specialists to be inscribed with an invisible code, where each detail, each stone, and the placement of structures are carefully correlated with stars and planets that form our sun and its system. Most ancient constructions worldwide were built with consideration of celestial orientations, starting from the pyramids of Egypt and Giza, extending their lines into Mexico, where the ancient city of Teotihuacan is located, and further through the archetypal layouts of Native American settlements, such as the Hopi tribes in the southwestern United States. Among these structures, natural formations such as 3 mountain peaks in a ridge hold particular significance, as researchers believe they symbolize three bright stars in Orion's belt. That is why the Hopi tribes chose this area for their settlements, because their cosmic symbolism and religious beliefs found confirmation in natural forms here. Even in northern England, near Stonehenge, a Neolithic landscape complex has been discovered, dated to approximately the 10th century BCE, which is also aligned with the stars, confirming the existence of a global ancient astronomical tradition that unites different parts of the Earth under a single cosmic understanding. A similar pattern is observed in the Chinese pyramids of Xi'an, another astonishing monument from the ancient era. All this suggests that humanity may have lost part of its history, and that ancient civilizations possessed knowledge that we can only now begin to guess at. We probably underestimate the level of development of our ancestors. Perhaps ancient cities, their architecture and symbolism are not just random structures, but evidence of a global, or at least intercontinental, ancient civilization that, seemingly, spanned all continents. Do you think such a highly developed civilization ever existed, influencing architecture, culture, and knowledge around the world? Why, despite temporal gaps and cultural differences, do many monuments closely resemble each other in their architectural features and precise orientations? Today, there is a hypothesis that the massive and complex structures, such as the Egyptian pyramids, could have been built using technologies far beyond our modern understanding. For example, the idea that extraterrestrial civilizations or alien technologies may have influenced the construction of the Great Pyramids of Giza no longer seems so fantastical. After all, what could better explain such mysterious engineering feats as moving and installing giant stone blocks, many of which were quarried dozens or even hundreds of miles away, and precisely fitting them into such large and perfect structures? How did the ancient builders manage to lift and set these massive blocks without modern tools and machinery? How did they manage to position these enormous stones so precisely that they aligned perfectly with cosmic proportions and constellations? Particularly impressive is their ability to determine the orientation of the pyramids relative to the constellation of Marinus, as well as to correlate them with the positions of Sirius and Draco, suggesting that they possessed incomprehensible knowledge even beyond our own. Some researchers believe that achieving such a knowledge level could only have been possible through the use of technologies that we cannot even imagine today. Building the Giza Pyramid required not only mastery of complex mathematics, architectural skills, and engineering knowledge, but also a profound understanding of geology, geography, and astronomy, knowledge that must have preceded the pyramid's construction by centuries. All of this raises the question, how could the ancient people have possessed such knowledge, given that they lacked modern tools and technologies? It is evident that ancient civilizations had unique information that enabled them to construct these masterpieces, which remained some of the most mysterious and magnificent monuments in human history. Only with highly advanced knowledge and extraordinary precision could such a grand stone structure be erected, a structure whose size and internal harmony can be called a true marvel of engineering art. The grandeur and complexity of the construction testify to the fact that ancient builders possessed exceptional skills, knowledge, and undoubtedly a high level of competence, allowing them to create such monumental edifices without any intermediaries or external assistance. Perhaps we underestimate their achievements, failing to fully acknowledge the brilliant minds behind these ancient constructions. The ancient Egyptians were truly genius, their knowledge and technological skills so advanced that there are grounds to believe that the pyramids were built without the involvement of external forces or civilizations. These outstanding architectural creations were among the 7 wonders of the ancient world, and only the Great Pyramid at Giza has survived to this day, remaining the only one of all the wonders that revealed its creators to the world and endured for centuries. It is astonishing that, at a time when other ancient cultures were just beginning to construct their first buildings, filling the space with unique architectural solutions. The Great Pyramid was already nearly 2,000 years old. This is how textbooks state that the age of this pyramid is approximately 4,000 years. However, recent archaeological and geological studies conducted in recent years cast doubt on this hypothesis and question the commonly accepted dates. The latest data suggest that the pyramid could have been built about 10,000 years ago, at a time when most humans still lived in caves and lacked even basic technological means to construct such grand structures. These contradictions provoke serious reflections on the precise timing of the pyramid's origin and the nature of their creation. They force scientists to seek explanations that could shed light on the mysteries of their emergence, as well as to understand who and with what purpose created these enigmatic structures. Many researchers support the hypothesis that these ancient monuments were built either with the involvement of mysterious, unknown civilizations, or, even more surprisingly, using technologies and knowledge that ancient people could not have grasped at that time. Among the most popular and provocative theories is the idea of ancient astronauts, suggesting that extraterrestrial civilizations may have influenced the development of human societies and even helped in creating the first large-scale structures. Renowned Professor Dora Law, a leading expert in archaeology at Cairo University, has expressed support for this concept, convinced that the complexity and precision of the pyramid construction can only be explained by the involvement of alien cultures or technologies. At a scientific conference dedicated to the study of ancient civilizations, Professor Shakin also endorsed this version, stating that it deserves more thorough investigation and validation. He proposed the idea that the construction of the Giza pyramids could very well have been carried out by beings from other worlds, raising numerous questions among researchers and skeptics alike. Polls participating in the exchange of opinions at this conference actively inquired about the possibility of extraterrestrial technologies within the pyramids, to which he responded vaguely, noting that there is something inside these ancient structures that clearly does not belong to our world. This small hint became yet another confirmation of the hypothesis of a possible extraterrestrial origin of the knowledge embedded in these constructions. Then a natural question arises. Are such indirect signs sufficient to conclude that aliens may have visited Earth thousands of years ago and influenced human development? Or is it that ancient humans were much more advanced and wiser than commonly believed, possessing knowledge and skills that were lost over time? Perhaps some information about our past, which could shed light on these mysteries, was long ago lost or destroyed throughout history, leaving only shadows and guesses. We are unlikely ever to obtain a complete and accurate picture of these events, but that does not prevent us from delving into research, considering all hypotheses, and seeking hidden meanings in ancient monuments. At the very heart of this mystery is the Great Pyramid, which is undoubtedly regarded as the most significant monument created by human hands, surpassing in scale and importance everything ever built on Earth. Despite its grandeur and durability, no image, drawing, record, or artifact has been found that could confirm this astonishing structure was erected by any ancient civilization, which has left us only rough writings and archaeological finds about their creation. The Egyptians, who left behind a rich script and numerous records detailing their development and rituals, did not mention the pyramids in Giza or the technology behind their construction in their manuscripts and chronicles. This is both surprising and mysterious, since it is precisely through these written testimonies that we can trace the evolution of their culture. However, the lack of references to the pyramids in ancient texts prompts reflection. Perhaps these structures were not part of their history at all, or they were intended for purposes about which information was destroyed over the centuries. Or, on the contrary, they remained hidden in secrecy for future generations. If we attempt to look at the great structures and mysterious pyramids that appeared in ancient times, the first question that arises is, who actually built these monumental constructions? If we carefully examine the available historical sources, we find that in ancient Egyptian monuments written in those distant times, there is no mention of pyramids specifically associated with this region. This prompts serious consideration of the need to turn to other, earlier sources beyond traditional history. Perhaps it is worth investigating the development of civilizations that existed long before Egypt's rise. There are hypotheses suggesting that we should study texts and evidence from cultures that existed even earlier and may have laid the foundations for writing and architectural achievements. Part 12 of 43. It is especially interesting in this context to pay attention to the first civilization in human history that managed to develop a writing system, the civilization that arose in Mesopotamia around 4,000 years before our era. There, in the heart of a fertile region called Sumer, lived people known as the Sumerians. These ancient people, in terms of achievements, resembled their modern descendants. They demonstrated a high level of development in sciences such as mathematics, architecture, and engineering. It is the Sumerians who are considered the creators of the civilization that we today perceive as foundational for human cultural development. They were the first to record their history and inscribe it on cuneiform tablets, which opened the possibility for us to study their lives and worldview across the centuries. This development provides researchers with a unique opportunity to immerse themselves in the fascinating world of ancient Sumerian texts and understand what knowledge these people possessed. We know that the Sumerians worshipped gods called the Anunnaki. The very word Anunnaki means those who came down from the heavens to earth. This term sparks much debate and speculation about who these beings might have been, deities or perhaps something else. Not only Sumerian sources, but also other Mesopotamian cultures mentioned similar divine beings, indicating the widespread presence of this concept in ancient legends and religious texts. Sumerian manuscripts describe in detail how these deities interacted with humans, bestowed upon them knowledge and technologies that previously seemed inaccessible. Essentially, this marked the beginning of a new era for humanity, because it was precisely thanks to the knowledge gained from these beings that humans were able to advance. Some scholars hypothesize that the Anunnaki are not merely mythological gods, but real extraterrestrial visitors who Earth in the hundreds and thousands of years ago. In the modern world, numerous discussions revolve around this question, and many researchers seek to understand what truly happened in those ancient times. Interestingly, the story of the creation of the world and humanity by the Anunnaki is often perceived not only as myth or legend, but as a potential reflection of actual events related to contact with extraterrestrial civilizations. The Sumerian population itself believed that the knowledge and technologies they possessed were received specifically from these beings. Their beliefs were based on the conviction that the Anunnaki were not just gods, but messengers from the heavenly heights who came to our planet to transfer their secrets to humanity. Furthermore, there is a version that these beings left a piece of their DNA in humans, which became an essential part of their role in the creation and development of the human race, transforming them into the gods creators of whom legends have come down to us. In the 70s of the 20th century, after a series of scientific studies, research, and interpretation of ancient Sumerian texts, many scholars concluded that the Anunnaki might not have been mythological characters at all. Some lean toward the idea that these beings were representatives of ancient, highly advanced civilizations that arrived on our planet from other worlds. In particular, the well-known American author Zecharia Sitchin, who gained fame for his bold theories about the origins of humanity and the history of civilizations, proposed such hypotheses in his works. Sitchin based his conclusions on research and translations of Sumerian texts, believing that they contain incredible information about how our civilization began and who created it. He argued that the biographies of these deities from Sumerian myths point to their origin from the planet Nibiru, which, in his opinion, was located somewhere beyond the solar system. According to his model, these beings arrived on Earth approximately 445,000 years ago, with specific missions and goals they planned to implement on our planet. Their initial landing sites were in the Persian Gulf, and at the head of these expeditions were two brothers, Enki and Enlil, who can be considered key figures in this ancient scenario. For many years, these visitors engaged in draining the swamps of the western coast region, doing everything possible to turn this area into a fertile and prosperous place, similar to the colonies they themselves built. Their activities included creating complex irrigation systems flowing between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers and establishing large settlements in this territory, which over time began forming the foundation for the development of an entire civilization. These efforts ensured not only survival, but also rapid societal development, as the irrigation systems allowed for bountiful harvests and provided housing for a growing population. As a result of these actions, one of the earliest thriving colonies on Earth emerged, which, thanks to the efforts of these ancient visitors, became a center of cultural and technological advancement. At this stage of their history, the Anunnaki, or beings who can be called ancient cosmic messengers, set a specific and very important task for themselves: to extract gold. To achieve this goal, they headed toward the resource-rich waters of the Persian Gulf, where, according to their information, deposits of this valuable metal were located. Initially, their efforts were focused on gold extraction precisely in these waters, as they hoped to find the necessary deposits in the quiet, deep waters. However, as they got closer to their goal, it became increasingly clear that accomplishing it was quite difficult and practically impossible, as conditions proved to be too severe and insurmountable. Natural obstacles, technological mismatches, or territorial protection may have made their work impossible or too costly. As a result of these difficulties, they were forced to abandon their original place of activity and to fully focus on the next stage: South African territories, where, as they knew, incredibly rich gold deposits were hidden. This discovery became a new opportunity for them, and driven by their constant pragmatism, they began a long development, more than 100,000 years, of these African riches. This prolonged activity, spanning centuries, laid the foundation for the further development of human civilizations, which were built upon the extraction methods and knowledge established during this period. For a long time, the Anunnaki, managing this large-scale operation, extracted vast amounts of gold from mines and ore deposits, which, along with the liquid drilling into the earth, came to them. It was during this extensive production and exploitation that the first large accumulations of rich resources appeared, stimulating technological and cultural advances. However, their dominance over this resource was not infinite. Time passed, and serious internal conflicts arose regarding labor management. At a certain point, a rebellious wave began among the lower slaves, called Igigi, indicating that they no longer wished to endure the terrible conditions imposed upon them. The uprising of these slaves, longing for justice and freedom, undermined their diligent exploitation system, leading to a loss of part of the workforce and, consequently, weakening their control. Facing this threat, Enki and his allies devised a bold and daring plan to create a new type of slave, those capable of performing heavy labor but possessing enough intelligence not to rebel. In those eras, ancient primitive humanoid creatures, known to scientists as Homo erectus, inhabited southern Africa. These beings, resembling our ancestors, were intelligent but remained wild and incapable of performing complex tasks. The Anunnaki decided to experiment with genetic modifications designed to create races that would be intelligent but obedient and easily controlled. To this end, they applied technology involving extracorporeal fertilization, a method in which eggs from female Homo erectus were fertilized with sperm from Anunnaki males, after which the resulting fertilized eggs were carefully transferred into the wombs of female primitive beings. As a result of this process, the first human in history was created, named Adam, a prototype of the created species produced through an artificially induced reproductive process. This approach allowed for the combination in the genetic code of the best traits of two beings, Anunnaki and Homo erectus, artificially endowing them with enough intelligence to work in mines, extract riches, and perform assigned tasks. As a result, thanks to these experiments, humanity found itself at a very brief stage of development, skipped through genetic interventions, so-called moments of evolution, similar to that of our current species, Homo sapiens. Suddenly, due to the intervention of the Anunnaki, Homo erectus was transformed beyond recognition into Homo sapiens, intelligent beings whom we call humans today. However, despite the fact that these created slaves were used for heavy economic labor, the Anunnaki learned a clear and important lesson. They did not want the emergence of self-aware individuals capable of independent reflection and competition. Therefore, by introducing increasingly complex genetic barriers and restrictions, they sought to inhibit the development of their consciousness in order to maintain control over their future. These restrictions, embedded in the genetic code, raised numerous questions and ambiguities about the mysterious chapter of human history. Time went on, and it became clear that Anunnaki slaves were dying faster than they could reproduce, creating a new challenge for their authority. Then, one of the Anunnaki, named Enki, one of the most renowned and influential, proposed a brilliant strategy. He decided to use his knowledge to once again modify the genetic code, making reproduction between two individuals possible. To do this, he developed a technology that revived the ability for mutual reproduction and created a woman, a new individual capable of conception. Now, humans could reproduce and increase their numbers at a much faster rate, significantly shortening their lifespan, bringing it closer to the modern one. But at the same time, the population growth was so rapid that even after this, the quick reproduction led to the people becoming exceedingly numerous. Their communities and generations gradually displaced and expelled beyond the first cities and settlements of the Anunnaki, located in southern Africa. The original colonies turned into dispersed groups scattered across the entire planet. People, beginning an independent life in various parts of the world, created their own civilizations, cultures, languages, and traditions. Perhaps this astonishing history, despite its antiquity, contains almost traces of real events. Have all our notions of a long and slow evolution of humans been mistaken? Could the current theories about human origins be incomplete or incorrect? It is noteworthy that Sumerian ancient texts are not the only evidence hinting at the existence of similar explanations for human origins. In the early 1940s, specifically in 1946, in an area now known as the West Bank of the Jordan River, a group of Bedouin teenagers tending sheep and goats accidentally stumbled upon a strange archaeological site. These young people, engaged in their usual activities after throwing stones in the desert area, stumbled upon one of the ancient caves. The stone that hit this dark and mysterious cave produced a strange echo, which the teenagers heard with surprise. This unexpected sound seemed to reverberate inside the cave, immediately drawing their attention to what was hidden within. When archaeologists first entered the oldest of the discovered caves, they uncovered a mysterious and fascinating world filled with secrets and extraordinary finds. At the center of their attention was a collection of large clay vessels crafted by skilled artisans of ancient times. Among them, one jug stood out due to its damaged condition. It was broken, although at first glance, none of the researchers noticed this. However, it was precisely in its walls, and especially inside it, that a sacred and valuable treasure was hidden. Ancient scrolls that adorned this place and revealed the mysterious and enigmatic world of ancient civilizations. Over time, as archaeologists undertook new expeditions and examined the region more thoroughly, they managed to discover fragments of these ancient manuscripts in other nearby caves. 10 more in total. Consequently, the total number of manuscripts found grew to about 890, though the exact figure remains a subject of debate and research. These unique scrolls were dubbed the Dead Sea Scrolls, and they have become the focus of attention for scientists and theologians worldwide, as they contain all the ancient wisdom and likely many still undiscovered secrets. Among these manuscripts, predominantly mysterious and long-forgotten religious texts were found, not included in the official religious canon, and thus surrounded by an aura of mystery. But the most important and unique content was unified into one complete book, called the Book of Enoch. This legendary and still thought-provoking manuscript consists of 5 parts, each revealing different aspects of the earliest myths and stories. The first part, called the Book of the Watchers, recounts the story of fallen angels, or in other words, beings described in biblical texts as Watchers of Heaven. Following sections are dedicated to parables, astronomy, dream illustrations, and a message directly from Enoch himself, the 7th patriarch mentioned in the book of Genesis, as well as his disciples, particularly Ophemifus, and finally, the most renowned and mysterious of all, Noah. These books together contain about 100 chapters which detail the life and deeds of Enoch. Moreover, his fate is not limited to the biblical account of the righteous man being taken to heaven by the gods, while remaining alive and unharmed. The Book of Enoch presents a much broader picture that sheds light on the events preceding the flood. The beginning of the era of fallen angels, their claims to power and influence, as well as the sins that united them with human women. The story describes how these fallen angels, or as they are also called, Watchers, came to Earth in ancient times to observe humanity, but their mission proved to be much more complex and dangerous than they had expected. Most legends say that, captivated by the beauty of human women, they engaged in sinful relationships with them, which resulted not only in divine offspring, but also in a dangerous breed, the Nephilim. These Nephilim, portrayed in legends as giants and barbarians, posed a threat to all of humanity with their strength, cruelty, and immorality. Ancient supernatural beings, also called waters, were outraged by the actions of the fallen angels, realizing that their deeds threatened destruction and chaos. They called these fallen angels gods, but decided to punish them and imprison them in underground prisons deep beneath the earth to bar their way to lands and people. As a result, Enoch, embodying righteousness and wisdom, became a kind of mediator between the heavens and the underworld, where the imprisoned angels and watchers were kept. Legends say that he traveled between the bright heavens and the dark underworld, fulfilling his duties, observing what was happening and relaying messages to higher powers, as well as, at times, acting as an intermediary between the gods and those imprisoned underground. His journeys took him through the vaults of the sky and through the dark passages of the earth's depths. During these trips, he saw rivers, mountain peaks, and the most remote corners of the surface, as if rising to the heavens for knowledge or descending into hellish depths to perform his tasks. Despite his efforts and good intentions, ultimately, the gods came to believe that crimes and sins committed on earth must be punishable. And that punishment involved the greatest trial of all, the flood, which was meant to destroy the Nephilim and malicious watchers, purifying the world and ushering in a new, more righteous era. Justly regarded as a righteous man, Enoch was lifted to the heavens on a fiery chariot, a symbol of the highest heavens and spiritual forces. This moment symbolizes his spiritual ascension and affirms his exceptional connection with God and the higher powers. Interestingly, in the book of Genesis, where the Great Flood is first mentioned, there are also indirect references to the Nephilim and their role in ancient events. In particular, stories about Abraham and his descendants include mentions of giants and heroes, who were the legacy of ancient warriors called Nephilim. In chapter 6 of the book of Genesis, quite enigmatic scenes are described, speaking of beings so large and powerful that the people living at that time appeared small and defenseless compared to them. Additionally, in the book of Numbers, chapters 32 and 33, which recount the Israelites' journey through the desert, there are mentions of a land inhabited by Nephilim, giants whose stature and size so amazed researchers that they are sometimes depicted as enormous beings vastly exceeding humans. These texts highlight their terrifying strength and influence. Of course, many modern scholars interpret biblical legends and traditions more as allegories, metaphors, or philosophical myths rather than literal historical truth. From time to time, many of them turn to archaeological discoveries, since there is evidence that the Great Flood, a global event, left traces in various cultures and traditions around the world. Archaeological artifacts, alleged evidence of giants and other mythological creatures supporting the existence of ancient giant races, still intrigue scientists and adventurers. Thus, the creatures called Nephilim in legends are depicted as giants, astonishing beings who had their place in the world of ancient myths and religions, serving as symbols of immense strength and mysterious images of bygone eras. If such enormous creatures as giants truly existed in our world, it would undoubtedly be evidenced and confirmed by scientific proof. Any scientist, archaeologist, or historian would likely agree that if the existence of giants were real, their presence would leave an indelible mark on the history of human civilization. Imagine, in our 30-minute documentary dedicated to the hypothetical topic of giants, we gather a whole collection of historical evidence. It could include reports of findings of giant skeletons across North America, as well as numerous accounts from ancient texts and myths. Additionally, we carefully examine newspapers from the late 19th and early 20th centuries, which published articles about discoveries of such giant bones and alleged encounters with beings of extraordinary size. These historical sources suggest that even in ancient times, thousands of years ago, people encountered someone much taller than a modern human. Furthermore, archives may contain records and confirmations that legends and folktales from various cultures around the world converge into a unified image speaking of the existence of ancient giants who lived among people. And if we presuppose that such giants truly existed, we can find many indications in the Bible and Jewish traditions, perhaps more obvious than they initially appear. In particular, the Book of Enoch, an ancient text that many consider allegorical, could contain far fewer myths and legendary images if it truly contained historical facts about giants. Then perhaps it wouldn't be so far removed from the truth. It would include more events genuinely recorded, rather than just metaphors or symbols. This raises a natural question. Why, despite its popularity and importance for early Jewish and Christian traditions, was this book not included in the canon of Scripture? Why was it deemed forbidden, subjected to censorship, and ultimately forgotten? In fact, the Book of Enoch never disappeared entirely. Its manuscripts were kept in the shadows of centuries of oblivion, hidden and often ignored. Behind this mysterious and fascinating text lies something much deeper and more complex than simply a question of its inclusion in the Christian canon. In light of these reflections, it is possible to suggest that Enoch, the seventh patriarch mentioned in the Bible, is closely connected with other ancient characters and historical figures. For example, insightful research indicates a possible link with Mendra, the seventh king who ruled on Earth long before the Great Flood. This individual, a mortal man, could be a key figure connecting legends and historical events with eras long forgotten. Modern science and archaeology continue to seek evidence for or against the existence of ancient astronauts, whom some hypotheses consider as real visits by extraterrestrial beings to our ancestors. In particular, Babylonian traditions attest to the belief of ancient peoples that heroes and gods are often exaggerated images of real historical figures or visitors from other worlds. The ancient Greeks, for instance, believed that Enoch, in a sense, is the same as Hermes, a wise mentor and the creator of many cultural achievements. Similar ideas can be found among the ancient Egyptians, where there exists a figure resembling a person with divine features, reminiscent of a character from biblical stories. All these coincidences and similarities raise numerous questions and have given rise to various theories about the origins of myths and legends. Perhaps their roots extend to an even more distant past, to the ancient Sumerians, who lived many thousands of years before our era. According to Sumerian texts, in ancient times, a mysterious expedition was visited on Earth by supernatural beings called Anunnaki, divine creatures possessing power and knowledge inaccessible to ordinary people. These beings are described in Sumerian chronicles in a rather frightening manner, almost as guardians of the universe, very similar to descriptions of fallen angels and watchers in the Book of Enoch. Multi-layered and enigmatic, the Anunnaki are often perceived by modern scientists as a possible ancient race of aliens that observed the development of Earth and humankind. Some specialists, such as Zachariah Sitchin or Eric von Daniken, suggest that they behaved like astronauts, visiting our planet and leaving their traces in legends, myths, and archetypes. These traditions mention the so-called Anunnaki, significant figures who stood at the origins of human civilization and are woven with stories about water flows and people with divine abilities, creating a special, new kind of beings. These legends echo descriptions of the Nephilim, in which gods and humans are intertwined into a single entity, giving rise to a new race. In those legendary times, rulers and wise men, dissatisfied with the state of earthly affairs, decided to invoke a catastrophe, a worldwide flood that would destroy the old and pave the way for new generations. Perhaps books like Enoch's and the traditions associated with them are merely modern reflections and reformatting of older Sumerian stories about the Anunnaki, who also held divine status and served as creators and destroyers. Let us turn our focus to an important turning point in ancient history, the agricultural revolution, which began around 10,000 years BC. Humanity took a decisive step from a life filled with constant search for food, hunting, and gathering, to creating the first agricultural communities and sedentary settlements. This transition became one of the most significant events in human history. Already in recent times, in the 9th millennium BC, in regions of present-day Kurdistan that were then called Hurry, people began cultivating grains such as barley and wheat, as well as rye, oats, peas, and lentils. Over the next approximately 500 years, archaeological evidence shows that humans domesticated goats and sheep, marking an important stage in the development of agriculture and animal husbandry. These events signaled the dawn of a new era, the era when humans could control their food sources, surpass natural limitations, and begin to build societies based on farming and domesticated animals. In this region, in ancient times, not only weaving and pottery craft developed, but also copper production, which attests to a high level of technological advancement in the civilization. Alongside these developments, this area was also the birthplace of one of the earliest and most influential cultures, contributing significantly to the development of writing and literature. This civilization, pioneering the creation of a writing system, laid the foundation for subsequent evolution in human society, culture, and sciences. It can be said that their achievements in written traditions became the starting point for the emergence of written societies in many other parts of the world. These early systems of recording information raised many questions among scholars and historians. They puzzled researchers with their phenomenal speed in crossing the threshold of creating writing and disseminating written texts. Why was it that this civilization was able to master the art of recording so quickly and transform oral tradition into written sources? There is a special significance to this, as legends suggest that the Kurds themselves considered their ancestors to be spirits, as well as children of beings that ancient people called jinn. This cultural assertion carries deep symbolism and may indicate ancient views on the origin of their people, believing that their children were born from the union of the Anunnaki, ancient deities or higher beings, and Naga women. According to Sumerian myths, it was the Anunnaki and several other gods who bestowed humanity with knowledge and technologies that remain a mystery to scientists to this day. Legends testify that this knowledge served as the starting point for the development of civilization, elevating humans from simple hunters and gatherers to bearers of complex cultural practices and engineering marvels. As a result, incomprehensible structures like the pyramids of Giza and Tiahuanaco appeared, magnificent monuments built with astonishing precision and internal harmony. Even today, they evoke wonder, as modern scientists cannot always explain how ancient people managed to construct such monumental and complex structures without the technologies we possess now. Interestingly, these wonders are often explained as the result of extraterrestrial interference or technologies brought by the Anunnaki from space. Equally astonishing is how, within a few centuries, humanity transitioned from a nomadic lifestyle based on hunting and gathering to the creation of highly developed civilizations possessing knowledge in architecture, metallurgy, medicine, and astronomy. In this sense, as ancient legends state, these divine supernatural beings exerted a great influence, as they essentially transmitted advanced knowledge and skills to humans that previously belonged only to gods. The Book of Enoch, which contains numerous references to mysterious beings and their origins, describes in detail the process of knowledge transfer from the Anunnaki to humans. It states that these supernatural entities not only taught humans the art of metallurgy and mineral extraction, but also shared knowledge in medicine, literacy, and even the prospects of astrology. In one of its chapters, Chapter 8, verse 13, it recounts how Azazel specifically taught humans to make swords, knives, shields, and breastplates. According to the text, he revealed to humanity the secrets of metal processing, taught them to create jewelry from various precious stones and dyes used in cosmetics and military equipment. Another aspect shown is knowledge of how to use antimony for makeup and ornaments, as well as secrets related to working with minerals and stones. However, despite these remarkable skills and technologies, a predatory spirit of godlessness and moral decay began to spread in the world. People increasingly distanced themselves from their spiritual and moral foundations. They began to indulge in fornication, betray their ideals, and degenerate in all their thoughts and deeds. In the Book of Enoch, essentially, a description is given of how these evil forces dismantled ancient moral laws and led humanity toward vice. The grandeur and mystery of these events still raise many questions today, and many researchers believe that it was these powerful supernatural forces that played a crucial role in the fate of humanity in ancient times. The most enigmatic and perhaps the most intriguing fact related to the Anunnaki and their activities is their supposed involvement in the construction of the great Egyptian pyramids. According to ancient writings left by the Arab historian al-Murizi, these gigantesque structures were built by order of a king known as Sarid, long before the Great Flood. What is especially interesting is that the name of this ruler, when translated from Hebrew, means Enoch, leading to speculation about the special role this figure might have played in legends and legendary events of antiquity. It should be noted that Sumerian sources also mention a powerful king named Gilgamesh, who ruled for 126 years and is considered one of the earliest humans on Earth. At the beginning of the 3rd millennium AD, that is, in the early 21st century, a group of German archaeologists working in Iraq made a stunning discovery, considered one of the most significant in modern archaeological history. Deep within the desert sands, they uncovered an underground tomb, which, in their opinion, could have belonged to the legendary King Gilgamesh, the hero of ancient myths and epic tales. This find became an incredible testament that the ancient Babylonian and Mesopotamian myths have a solid historical basis. Evidence of this includes not only inscriptions on the walls, but also the very nature of the archaeological site, which, according to geological and cultural features, dates back to the era preceding the Great Flood, an era that is fully within the historical, chronological range. For centuries, historians and scholars have engaged in fierce debates and discussions about whether the legendary Gilgamesh truly existed, the famous hero and king of ancient Uruk, known from ancient texts and epics. In ancient times, he was described as an extraordinarily tall man, a 17-foot giant endowed with nearly half-moon-shaped strength and immense height, almost as a genuine half-man, combining features of both humans and gods. According to myths and legends, he was created in the image of a Mesopotamian goddess, as part of some divine plan, which sparked numerous guesses and speculations about the nature of his existence and the reality of his life. For this reason, many researchers believe that the story of Gilgamesh was merely a fleeting reflection of mythological or legendary tales, part of ancient mythology, no more. However, by the end of the 20th century, the situation began to change thanks to new discoveries and technologies. Thus, American archaeologist York Fastender, along with his team, employed advanced methods for non-invasive study of the soil and subsurface layers, utilizing modern equipment to conduct in-depth analysis of ancient infrastructural sites. These investigations led them to a sensational discovery. They uncovered a large, well-planned city whose ancient ruins remarkably matched descriptions found in the epic dedicated to Gilgamesh, known as the Epic of Gilgamesh. In this hidden place, resting beneath layers of sand and time, remnants of structures, houses, gardens, and agricultural plots have survived to the present day. Moreover, the scientists established that a complex system of hydraulic channels once operated here, leading them to hypothesize that they had found the Desert Venus, an ancient water crossing that had remained preserved and functional for centuries. Even more impressive was the discovery on the outskirts of this city, probably an ancient cemetery or burial site which, according to experts' hypotheses, could be connected to the people who lived in these lands, or potentially to the figure of Gilgamesh himself. Archaeologists speculated that this tomb was most likely associated with legendary ancient heroes. Fastender proposed that, although the tomb of the ancient king, and perhaps the very place of his final resting, may not have belonged directly to Gilgamesh, its resemblance to descriptions in the epic suggests a more significant and mysterious testament from ancient times. It is possible that today researchers have come closer to uncovering a secret that could overturn the entire narrative of human history. The scientists and archaeologists debated whether the discovered burial was indeed the tomb of the 17-foot giant. For them, it was a remarkable find capable of shedding light on long-forgotten pages of human history. Such events are rare and unique, capable of transforming our understanding of the past and dispersing the fog of ages. They believed that revealing this secret would open new horizons for understanding historical events and cultures. However, just weeks later, everything changed. the most powerful events of modern times disrupted the scientists' routine. In the United States of America, a military operation commenced, the invasion of Iraq, which forced Fastender's team to abandon excavations and postpone their research. The mystery of this find remained unresolved, as if it vanished along with the disappearance of the scientists. Among possible explanations was the idea that one key clue might be linked to another important discovery made by English historian and archaeologist Austen Henry Lerт. This event took place during a period when archaeology was already beginning to demonstrate its most astonishing achievements. During the reign of the Assyrian king Ashurbanipal, one of the earliest libraries in human history was discovered in northern Iraq, a vast archive of written manuscripts that has been preserved to this day in relatively good condition. In this place, layers of ancient clay revealed an enormous number of tablets, many of which were intended to store important information. At the center of attention was one of these clay tablets. Its age was at least 5,000 years, and despite a significant gap in understanding, it contained a mysterious text. This text is a true enigmatic, multi-layered masterpiece of antiquity. It has never been deciphered, which has raised many questions among scholars for decades. Interest in it grew when, in the early 18th century, during numerous excavations, more than 15,000 similar tablets were found, all with the same inscriptions, preserved on different samples. All these artifacts were returned to the British Museum, where scholars spent decades working to decipher their meaning. They used other ancient inscriptions, written in languages known and studied, to attempt reverse engineering and understanding the content of these mysterious texts. A true breakthrough in this field occurred in 1777 thanks to a man named George Smith. Born in 1840, he left school at 14 and decided to dedicate his life to studying ancient languages and scripts. His fascination with Assyrian writing led him to significant successes in deciphering ancient texts, which became a crucial step in understanding human history and culture. Early in his career, he worked as a banknote engraver, had no formal education, but through persistence and self-improvement, he achieved heights no other scholar had reached before. He began to comprehend the meaning of ancient texts and started reconstructing lost knowledge. Nevertheless, his unwavering interest in mysterious artifacts discovered in Iraq and remaining incompletely deciphered in their enigmatic nature continued to be as strong as on the first day of his fascination. Smith's innate ability to feel the allure of such unknown mysteries and his desire to delve into their deeper meaning turned out to be fate-making for him. Thanks to his natural curiosity and passion for discovery, he became convinced that hidden within such secrets lay his true mission, which he was destined to fulfill. Thus, his obsession with ancient enigmas led him to regularly visit the British Museum, especially during lunch breaks and his free time, to personally explore its rich collections of artifacts and manuscripts. Gradually, under the influence of consistent study, he began to independently master ancient languages, which allowed him to decipher old inscriptions. By the age of 46, he had reached a level enabling him to understand the basic elements of mysterious writing systems found on commemorative tablets and clay artifacts scattered throughout the museum. His persistence and unwavering dedication did not go unnoticed, and the museum staff, initially surprised by his extraordinary passion and determination, finally took notice of him. Those who previously only happened to encounter his enthusiasm now looked at his work with renewed interest, realizing that this young man was developing in directions opening new horizons in archaeological and linguistic research. Soon, a decision was made to offer him a position as a translator, as his knowledge and skills far exceeded those of ordinary staff members. After lengthy discussions, he agreed and began fulfilling his new duties. he was tasked with starting to decipher texts related to the so-called 20,000th fragment, discovered several years earlier in 1862 by archaeologist Austen Henry Layard. Time went on, and Smith dedicated himself fully to research, devoting many years of his life to it. Before long, his understanding gradually began to emerge. The words inscribed on those ancient tablets started to make sense, and their contents, deeper and clearer, began to become manifest before his eyes. When science made its first confident steps towards comprehension and the meaning took shape and structure, he was struck to the core. He suddenly realized that before him lay not just a mysterious set of symbols, but a real window into an exciting history capable of changing humanity's perception of antiquity. His discoveries, made through relentless effort and support from his family, marked the beginning of a new stage in archaeological research. In 1872, when the Biblical Archaeological Society prepared its public presentation, attended even by the Prime Minister of Great Britain, a truly significant event occurred. The global scientific community and religious circles saw in these findings a confirmation of biblical stories about the ancient era. This sensational discovery swept through Europe and beyond, generating keen interest among scientists and theologians. Many expressed the opinion that the new information confirmed the existence of the legendary flood described in sacred scripture, specifically the story of Noah. Continuing his work, in 1875, Smith began publishing full translations of his findings, delving ever deeper into uncovering the meanings hidden within the ancient writings. Unexpectedly, he found himself drawn into the work on one of the oldest and most mysterious stories to have survived to the present day, the legendary Epic of Gilgamesh. This epic, older than many other well-known ancient works, throughout history has remained one of the most significant and influential literary monuments. It tells the story of the life and deeds of the ancient king Gilgamesh, who, according to legend, lived in the territory of modern Iraq, ancient Mesopotamia. The epic describes how he began his journey as a ruthless and powerful ruler, a tyrant with seemingly limitless authority. However, the gods, dissatisfied with his behavior and violation of divine commandments, decided to teach him a lesson. They created an opponent named Enkidu, who became his equal and, to some extent, a counterbalance. When their paths crossed and they fought, through mutual respect and friendship, their relationship evolved into an inseparable bond. Subsequently, both experienced countless adventures, battles, trials, and miraculous events narrated in the epic. After Enkidu's death, Gilgamesh mourned deeply, which prompted him to seek answers to the questions of eternal life and the secrets of immortality. His journey and quest are just part of a rich series of adventures in which he participates. The epic itself had a profound influence on the development of heroic literature, both in ancient times and in later historical eras. It laid the groundwork for numerous works admired by generations of writers and playwrights, such as Homer's Iliad and Odyssey, for example. What attracts modern audiences to this ancient story today, especially in the context of recently made translations, is that Gilgamesh's depiction reveals not only his power and regality, but also his inner character, personality, and qualities. It is said that he was the son of a divine mother, possibly the goddess Gamu, and a human. Thus, he represented a unique blend of the divine and the mortal. As a result, he was somewhat more than half human and more than 2/3 divine, making him a special hero with a destiny filled with trials and great deeds comparable to legendary myths and tales. Due to certain circumstances and his exceptional qualities, he manifested truly impressive abilities and traits. He was astonishingly tall, reaching 17 feet, approximately 5.5 meters. Such height, combined with superhuman strength, made him virtually invincible, capable of lifting incredible weights, easily overcoming any physical obstacle, and displaying remarkable endurance even in the most challenging conditions. Moreover, his mind was vast, characterized by exceptional insight, analytical skills, and strategic thinking. These qualities together formed the image of a true hero, surpassing all others in his possibilities. The most remarkable and special aspect of his personality is the harmony of the strongest physical attributes, wit and wisdom, transforming him into an object of admiration and legendary stories. Historians and legends often depict him as a figure surpassing all known humanity, an indefinable example of perfection and absolute superiority. In legendary texts, it is recorded that, like an ancient hero, he explored all corners of the world, expanded the horizons of human understanding, and acquired divine-level wisdom. These sources state that he not only traveled through distant lands, but also conquered power, mastering all kinds of knowledge about nature and the mysteries of the universe, which made him a unique and unparalleled character. According to ancient tales, his pursuit of knowledge was the driving force behind all human progress. His quest for wisdom and understanding of all hidden secrets pushed humanity forward toward new discoveries and achievements. The epic recounts that upon reaching the edge of the labyrinth, the symbol of complex paths, enigmas, and trials, he gained a deep and comprehensive understanding of the nature of all that exists. The knowledge he acquired was so vast and universal that it could be considered the foundation for building new civilizations, new beliefs, and technologies. It was this combination of qualities, clarity of mind, physical strength, and a thirst for knowledge that made the possible discovery of his tomb in the 21st century incredibly significant. Such archaeological finds promise to become truly sensational events, as they could reveal secrets hidden for centuries. Reflecting on what might be inside the tombs of ancient heroes and legendary figures raises the question: what would archaeologists find if they uncovered his final resting place? What secrets, knowledge, or wisdom might the ancient hero have left in peace for future generations? What mysteries are hidden in his writings, perhaps in the form of ritual, cuneiform tablets or prophecies? What information about his quests for immortality and magical abilities remains deep within his tombs? Perhaps he possessed knowledge meant for eternal life, and his secret chambers hold the keys to understanding timeless wisdom unknown to modern humanity. Moreover, if in ancient times representatives of extraterrestrial civilizations, known as the Anunnaki, truly visited the territory of modern Iraq, then the idea of their possible presence becomes even more plausible. It is quite likely that these godlike aliens left behind not only myths and legends, but also material evidence of their technologies. Tools, devices, symbols of higher knowledge that could shatter the boundaries of our understanding. Supporting the hypothesis of ancient astronauts, advocates of this theory argue that evidence of their visits is hidden in various parts of the world, and to find it, one only needs to know where to look, such as in religious texts, sacred manuscripts, and ancient records. Part 28 of 43. We can observe that the architecture of ancient monuments, such as pyramids, megalithic complexes, and other monumental structures, contains clear and indirect indications of the presence of alien technologies. Their precise measurements, complex constructions, and material features all serve as evidence that the ancient builders possessed knowledge that far exceeded our assumptions. Delving into the study of Sumerian cuneiform tablets, these ancient cultural archives, we find references related to the time when beings such as the Anunnaki inhabited Earth. In particular, one fragment points to the presence of these extraterrestrial entities after a catastrophic event known as the Great Flood. These records describe how the godlike astronauts, liberated from the destructive consequences of the disaster, undertook reconstruction efforts. building new megalithic structures, reinforcing the land, and creating stable bases for future generations. One of the 10 tablets clearly contains the phrase, "Let the heart of plans reflect the heavens." This imagery symbolizes the idea that great designs and intentions originated precisely from those connected with the skies, and perhaps from those who arrived from space. According to these legends, this is how the idea arose that plans were aligned with higher powers and celestial bodies. One of the divine beings, Enlil, celebrated in Sumerian culture, proposed that his aide, Enki, develop a specific plan of action. After Enki's consent and acknowledgement of heavenly laws, the implementation of a series of activities began. Constructing artificial structures, preparing technological mechanisms, and creating means of protection against possible future catastrophes. If we consider structures of such grandeur as the Pyramids of Giza and other megalithic edifices worldwide, they represent not just historical monuments, but a kind of symbol of secret knowledge and the technological superiority of ancient people. Their exact similarity and correspondence with cosmic structures suggest that these edifices are connected to the memory of those who possessed knowledge now inaccessible to us. By uncovering the mysteries of these tombs and megalithic complexes, we can find evidence that ancient civilizations had access to knowledge surpassing modern technologies and scientific achievements. Throughout the world, we observe astonishing and often phenomenal coincidences. Discoveries and structures everywhere are so unique and similar to each other that a natural question arises. Are they linked by some connection, clues, or even a shared origin? For example, numerous monuments of architecture built in ancient times are precisely aligned with the positions of star constellations. From the famous pyramids of Giza, precisely oriented towards specific astronomical points, to the ancient pyramids of Teotihuacan, located in modern Mexico, and even to the layouts of Hopi Indian settlements in the southwestern United States. In all these cases, one can easily observe similarities in orientation and planning. These structures, separated by thousands of kilometers and created across different eras and cultures, demonstrate an alignment that clearly points toward the constellations, which seems to be something much greater than a mere coincidence. Especially intriguing is the fact that the natural shapes of some geological formations, such as the three peaks of a mountain, are arranged so that their summits, three horizontally elongated sides, exactly correspond to the positions of stars in Orion's bright belt. Even in the layout and positioning of ancient sites and monuments, such as those in Xi'an, there is evidence that they are deliberately oriented toward the same constellation. Sometimes it's hard to believe the hypothesis that all these ancient structures are connected to celestial beings descended from the skies, and that these beings themselves were the creators of these constructions. Studying ancient tablets and writings, there is often a sense that they describe the presence of some beings emerging from space. Beings capable of constructing complex and enduring structures perfectly aligned with the stars. When we come across real evidence supporting such stories, discovering that a vast number of monuments worldwide are oriented toward the stars, more persistent questions arise in our imagination. Is it not surprising that ancient people knew the positions of bright constellations so precisely and built their grandiose structures with this knowledge in mind? Does this not suggest that the Sumerians, whether incidentally or intentionally, did not merely tell legends about celestial powers, but based their accounts on obvious knowledge passed down from higher sources or from unknown epochs? For those still doubting the mystical origins of the Pyramids of Giza, it is worth turning to another, less known but highly significant fragment from Sumerian tablets. It depicts a surface with smooth, almost mirror-like peaks that strongly resemble the Pyramids of Giza. Yes, this association may seem strange, and it's difficult to say for certain whether it relates directly to the Egyptian monuments or if it is merely a coincidence. However, if we assume that it is so, then let it be. In any case, there are more significant and concrete pieces of evidence, and a detailed examination of them allows us to appreciate the irrefutable scholarly validation. One of these fragments, deserving special attention, states, "In the plain above the Ningasisa River Valley, a large-scale model was built with corners rising at specific points and with 4 smooth sides. Through this model, a large peak was refined nearby, and its sides were precisely aligned on the 4 different corners of the Earth, or on stones carved and placed next to it with an accuracy of up to a meter." The same passage emphasizes that the peak, which can be considered an analog of a pyramid, was positioned exactly where it could be regarded as a twin of the pyramid. Clearly, this refers to the Great Pyramid of Giza, the only major monument fully aligned with the 4 cardinal points. Deeper study of these texts reveals that ancient knowledge existed regarding the precise location of the Earth, its geometry, and the importance of aligning structures according to astronomical and geographical features. One ancient excerpt mentions that the pyramids were built with the help of beings called the Anunnaki. As interpreted from ancient texts, this term corresponds to Ningasira, son of Enki. Later, the Egyptians came to regard him as the god of wisdom and knowledge, which explains why powerful tools and the efforts of master builders were enlisted for the construction of majestic pyramids. Such structures required not only technical skill, but also knowledge of exact proportions and placement, as confirmed by archaeological findings. Yet, there is another mystery that is difficult to solve. How could these ancient civilizations build such enormous and complex structures without modern technology, without much difficulty? As a result, we observe thousands of pyramids in various parts of the planet, built at different times and by different peoples. Could it be that, in ancient times, a mighty, highly advanced interstellar civilization existed, actively transmitting its knowledge and technology? If these insights had arisen independently on Earth, wouldn't we find traces of them on other planets or moons? In fact, this scenario is almost corroborated by a unique event that occurred 23 years earlier. It happened on July 20th, 1976, when the spacecraft Viking 1, successfully landing on Mars, for the first time in human history, began its exploratory mission. During this expedition, NASA obtained several astonishing photographs that left scientists and mystery enthusiasts captivated. One of these images clearly showed an unusual structure resembling a humanoid figure or a humanoid creature stretching over a mile, about 1.5 kilometers. And the discoveries did not end there. Models found on Mars mysteriously resonate with various ancient legends and images that engender curiosity among researchers on Earth. For some inexplicable reason, the United States National Aeronautics and Space Administration, widely known as NASA, did not conduct a follow-up imaging of this astonishing and mysterious region on the surface of Mars. For a long time, it kept the details of this unique object secret, preferring not to investigate it again. Only under pressure from numerous organizations interested in uncovering the truth was a decision ultimately made in 1999 to publish another photograph showing the same structure as before, but taken from a different angle. This new image effectively provided an opportunity to view the enigmatic object from a different perspective, revealing additional details and nuances. Alongside this unusual face, the same ancient pyramid, which had already attracted the attention of researchers and been the subject of much discussion, was still visible. Nevertheless, NASA representatives hurried to dismiss any discovery of an unusual shape, claiming it was most likely an optical illusion caused by the interplay of light and shadows on the surface. Over time, as technology advanced, scientists began using specialized programs for 3-dimensional image processing, opening new possibilities for analysis. These modern tools helped establish that the supposed face on the Martian surface is approximately 406 meters tall, and its length exceeds 1.7 kilometers. Such scale is staggering and raises even more questions about the nature of this formation. Further investigation of other images taken in the vicinity of this object revealed several selective pyramids located at coordinates similar to known terrestrial analogues. This area was named the Cydonia Complex, and within it, the pyramids were designated as D and M, indicating a systematic classification of these structures. Over time, numerous scientific studies confirmed the hypothesis that the famous pyramids of Giza on Earth are nothing but copies of ancient structures with similar parameters, belonging to the Cydonia Complex, which, according to some data, is much older than the Egyptian pyramids. The pyramids on Earth and on Mars have nearly identical coordinates, leading to speculation about the existence of super-ancient, almost invisibly connected entities within the universe. Even the famous Sphinx, located in Egypt, occupies the same position as its Martian counterpart, the Sphinx situated among the pyramids of the Cydonia Complex. These coincidences increasingly astonish scientists and enthusiasts, casting doubt on the randomness of such similarities. All of this led to the idea that the Giza complex on our planet and similar structures on Mars may have been created based on the same ancient prototypes, or even serve as preserved traces of an ancient civilization whose existence is hidden from modern humanity. Some researchers suggest roughly this: our pyramids are not just monuments, but mere copies of much older structures located in a region that can be tentatively called Cydonia. These structures are essentially remnants of a long-forgotten civilization that could have existed long before the eras we know. Interestingly, even the Sphinx, positioned on Earth's surface, is aligned in a way that matches exactly with the placement of its Martian counterpart, adding an air of mystery and prompting claims about the possible existence of an interplanetary archetype or an ancient connection between the worlds. Studies show that the geographic coordinates of the Giza complex on Earth nearly coincide with those of the Cydonia complex on Mars, suggesting a common origin for these structures, or at least a connection between them. In this context, it is very intriguing to consider that our current history, which we learn from textbooks and scientific sources, may be only a small part of a broader and much older history of humanity and an entire planetary civilization. As the French poet and thinker of the 20th century, Charles Péguy, noted, "It is almost impossible for us to fully comprehend ancient epics. There are too few sources of reliable information, and yet it is impossible to ignore the modern wealth of documentary evidence." He argued that ancient stories about gods and angels, giants and catastrophes might have a literal, or at least deeper symbolic meaning than it initially appears. Careful study can reveal hidden messages and alternative versions of human history that sharply change our usual understanding of time and space. Perhaps what we perceive as legends and myths are merely distortions or encoded references to older, true events. These knowledge, along with the history of power, represent an alternative reality that actually existed before, but was pushed out and removed from our collective consciousness, almost entirely forgotten or ignored by contemporary historians and scientists. Within certain parts of ancient scriptures, such as the Book of Enoch, there are many secret knowledges and mysteries related to lightning, thunder, and energy. In particular, some researchers believe that this very chapter might help unravel the mysteries of nature of electricity and energy, revealing manifestations of forces that we still almost completely do not understand. These puzzles, in their view, are directly connected to the mysterious Anunnaki, beings who, many scientists and researchers believe, attempted to convey the secrets of controlled energy to human society through enigmatic figures left as symbols and circles in the fields. Finally, in 1974, the renowned American scientist Carl Sagan led a project to send a signal into space, the so-called Arecibo Message. The main goal of this initiative was to establish contact with extraterrestrial civilizations using powerful radio waves that would merge with the invisible boundaries of the universe and transmit information about Earth. The message contained details about our planet's location, humanity's appearance, its DNA, fundamental scientific principles, as well as mathematics and other essential knowledge. It was a highly ambitious and innovative project aimed at eliciting a response, or at least detecting signs of intelligent extraterrestrial life. But what was the likelihood of receiving an answer after only 27 years, that is, just over a quarter of a century, at a mysterious field in the English county of Bolton? There, near the country's largest telescope and observatory, a strange circle suddenly appeared in the field, surrounded by numerous speculations and conjectures. For some, it became evidence of possible contact with beings from other civilizations, while others saw in it a face on Mars or another mysterious symbol that could hold a hidden message. Shortly after the first strange circle was discovered in the same field, a new symbol appeared, something that drew no less interest and surprise. This circle was created with astonishing accuracy and resembled an exact replica of the message Carl Sagan sent into space in 1974. It was executed in a similar manner and seemed to be a response to the initial information recently sent into the vast expanses of the universe. This new message detailed another extraterrestrial solar system, their appearance, features, and, notably, included information about non-human DNA. For many, this was a reliable sign that the time had finally come to receive a clear answer to questions that had long troubled humanity. Sometimes it seems that such a find is like definitive confirmation that we are in dialogue. Someone or something is trying to contact us and convey their version of the truth. How could such a circle have arisen? Perhaps its creator was an alien civilization, an extraterrestrial intelligent being that has long been observing us and is ready to make its presence known. This hypothesis is supported by some researchers who believe that the unraveling of this mysterious phenomenon became more evident with the appearance of another unusual circle, which appeared later in 2011. At that time, in the small Italian town of Parina, an image was found, a circle featuring a clearly visible seven-pointed star, created using a special code. This intricate design seemed to point to its creator, whose name is Enki, a figure frequently invoked in the myths and legends of ancient civilizations. This name is not accidental and carries significant historical weight. In Sumerian mythology, it was the name of one of the greatest gods, a predecessor of Aquarius, an ancient guardian of water and wisdom. And something about this name continues to captivate the minds of modern truth seekers. Some researchers suggest that beneath the name Enki lies not a mythological character, but a real leader of an ancient group of extraterrestrial messengers known as the Anunnaki. According to legends, these Anunnaki arrived on Earth long ago and, it is hypothesized, conducted genetic modifications of early humans, creating obedient slaves for their purposes. This version fuels both interest and concern among conspiracy theory supporters, who believe that these same forces might now re-establish contact with humanity, announcing the imminent return of their leader, Enki, through mysterious circles appearing in fields on Earth. There is also a view that this zodiac cycle, which, according to calculations, lasts about 12,240 years, is entering another phase of repetition. We, or rather our civilization's development, find ourselves on the verge of a new era, and some experts believe that Enki, the prototype of the water-bearer god, may now begins to implement his plans, reclaiming the role of supreme mentor and leader. Is it possible that history will repeat itself, and the great extraterrestrial leader will return to humanity once again? It's hard to say for sure, though many invisible signals, as well as new signs and hints, point to this possibility, especially considering that in the past, humans fell victim to the Anunnaki and their influences. Could such situations occur again? Is all this merely a cyclic return of the same forces, endlessly repeating in the spiritual and material realms? But there is also another perspective on the long-standing legend of the Anunnaki. Many supporters of alternative theories believe that these ancient extraterrestrial civilizations were not evil, but in their time, they gifted the world with advanced technologies, knowledge, and culture, which helped our ancestors create truly astonishing structures, pyramids, Stonehenge, and other megaliths, still captivating the minds of scientists and researchers today. In this context, the mysterious seven-pointed stars, which began appearing in fields in Italy simultaneously with the discovery of the circle in 2011, come to mind once more. One of the researchers, Michael Lihill, noticed an unusual connection between geometric shapes in the circles and their supposed purity. He discovered that the image of a seven-pointed star is most closely associated with a number that is considered special in astronomy and numerology: the number 432. He also observed that this number is inextricably linked to frequencies, which are depicted in cinematic images as indicators located exactly 4 octaves lower than a sound frequency of 43 Hz. This unique combination of graphics and numbers at an energetic level closely resembles the seven-pointed star, which has increasingly appeared in field circles in Italy. If we accept that the number 432 is considered magical, embodying the transmission of harmony and purity of the universe, then the pattern of such images gradually becomes some form of encrypted message. What exactly is embedded within them remains a mystery. What hidden meanings do these codes and encoded words hold? What secret lies behind this phenomenon, and what is it trying to convey to humanity? Answers to these questions require further research and in-depth analysis, as it is quite possible that we are on the verge of discovering new knowledge about our universe, its structure, and mysterious connections that have thus far remained beyond understanding. The well-known native elder named A.R. Cloud not accidentally uttered mysterious words. He suggested that when scientists finally comprehend the true significance of the seven-pointed star in the sky, their perspectives and understanding of the world will change radically. In his view, this star symbolizes not just an astronomical object, but represents the image of perpetual movement forward and infinite self-reproduction, where everything unified and interconnected continually develops and expands. In this context, he argued, human progress in the future will undergo significant transformations that are currently hard to foresee. This highest level of understanding is supported by studies conducted by a person named Hiles, who specializes in analyzing mysterious circles forming on fields across the planet. His work allows not only to record the fact of these structures' appearance, but also to comprehend their complexity and diversity. He believes that someone in our world is trying to communicate hidden messages to humanity through these ground-created drawings. And if I had to offer my conjecture, I would probably suggest that these messages are connected to the number 432. In recent years, numerous mysterious circles have arisen on islands, plains, fields, and even in rural areas, appearing quite unusual. Their composition reveals complex mathematical formulas, magnetic field diagrams, mechanisms of engine operation, as well as routes for transmitting electrical current and power line configurations. Some researchers believe that these mysterious patterns are connected to descriptions of an ancient figure named Enoch's Journey to the Gods, a legendary character shrouded in numerous secrets. These legends are often supported by UFO sightings, unusual flying objects that appeared in the sky across different eras, fueling interest in mysterious phenomena. One ancient legend states that Enoch, traveling through celestial realms, found himself inside a massive floating palace made of cut glass. According to tradition, this palace was covered with glass panels through which, when it moved through space, one could not help but notice the sparkling stars. Based on these images, it can be speculated that the mysterious fiery chariot said to have taken Enoch before the Great Flood could very well have been an alien spacecraft. Of course, these ideas are difficult to accept at face value, and many still regard such hypotheses as incredible. But astonishing stories about observers, strange circles, and bizarre images in fields continue to provoke deep reflections on the nature of these phenomena. For thousands of years, tales and legends about the Anunnaki, Nephilim, giants, and ancient gods left a noticeable mark on the cultures of various peoples around the world. Over time, however, this knowledge was significantly forgotten, displaced, and disappeared from everyday consciousness. For example, the Sumerians as a civilization were almost pushed out of the mainstream cultural background, and their myths and legends lost their former prominence. One vivid example of this is the text of the Book of Enoch, an ancient work that was long kept under censorship and excluded from the canon of biblical sacred texts. Nevertheless, despite the profound influence these historical elements had on human development, shaping certain ideas about humanity and the universe, the question of their complete oblivion was never fully resolved. Let us turn our attention to the biblical story of the first humans on Earth, Adam and Eve, who, according to tradition, lived in the Garden of Eden. If we interpret this story not as a simple historical tale, literally, but as a metaphorical allegory, many new and interesting insights emerge from its depths. In this case, it can be seen as a reflection of ancient beliefs and myths hidden beneath the surface of the external fairy tale shell. God created Adam to observe the earth, to understand its laws and secrets. Similarly, in ancient texts such as the Book of Enoch, events are described where God sent guardians, beings from Adam's rib, protecting or guiding humanity. Later, Eve is created, and the close relationship between Adam and Eve leads to the emergence of offspring. This process symbolizes a kind of crossing between divine entities and women, creating a special connection and generating new knowledge. In the view of ancient peoples, humans were endowed with free will expressed in the ability to eat everything, including the fruits from the ancient tree of the knowledge of good and evil. According to the legend, it was this fruit that marked the emergence of knowledge about God and the fateful secrets of the universe for Adam and Eve. The transmission of knowledge and wisdom through guardians, divine beings, could in some interpretations signify the transfer of technologies, knowledge of the cosmos, and the true nature of existence. The Book of Enoch describes how these hidden, celestial secrets became accessible to those who could decipher them, serving as a metaphor for uncovering ancient mysteries previously inaccessible to humans. This suggests that ancient legends, even when shrouded in myth, actually contain hidden messages about secrets and knowledge passed down through generations, often encoded with difficulty. Therefore, within these stories lies something more profound than it appears at first glance, a key to understanding the origins and evolution of human civilization, as well as mysterious knowledge that may have existed long before modern sciences. Reflecting on ancient tales and legends, we can draw a parallel between the story of the first humans, Adam and Eve, and certain mythic narratives involving heroism and divine origins of humanity. Notably, an analogy can be made with the contents of the Book of Enoch, which may conceal a deeper meaning than initially evident. Often, those who wrote about the beginnings of mankind interpreted the stories from this book in their own ways, a phenomenon that was characteristic of numerous religious and cultural traditions across the ancient world. As a result, allegories and symbolic images emerged through which vital knowledge and perspectives concerning the origins of the universe and humanity were conveyed. Perhaps the authors of the biblical texts embedded in the story of Adam and Eve not so much specific historical facts, but a special code of important philosophical and spiritual concepts encoded within plots and images. Is the story of the first humans merely a retelling of Sumerian mythology about divine beings, the Anunnaki, or is it a genuine account reflecting the origins of the human race? This question remains relevant to this day. In some cultures, especially certain African tribes, there are deities believed to be the creators of humanity. One such deity is named Kai, a name possibly linked to the term Anunnaki used in Sumerian mythology, associated with divine teachers or creators of mankind. This fact prompts thoughts about the deep antiquity and universality of the idea of divine human origins, reflected across various cultural traditions. The online platform Adam Nell, which translates as Sky Man or Man from the Sky, is now regarded as a center for research and mysteries related to the earliest civilizations. Many scientists, historians, and researchers seeking fame gather around this site, trying to unravel the hidden mysteries recorded within its pages. Stories about ancient peoples, whom locals called Insala and Langa, speak of the birthplace of the sun, the place where the heavens meet the earth and where gods created humanity. These legends and myths resonate with many explorers and enthusiasts because they are believed to contain kernels of truth and clues about long-extinct civilizations. Tales of the existence of the Anunnaki and their role in creating humans, repeated across the myths of different peoples, should not be regarded simply as ancient fables. Some researchers believe they go beyond mere fiction and may reflect real events and processes that occurred in the distant past. If we assume that early humans appeared through the interaction of ancient extraterrestrial beings, the Anunnaki, with our ancestors, then this hypothesis requires corresponding evidence in our DNA and genetic code. Over approximately 100 years, from the 1890s up to the year 2003, the scientific community undertook a monumental project, decoding the complete human genome. Its goal was to establish the exact sequence of all human DNA nucleotides, a task of extraordinary complexity. To scientists' surprise, it was revealed that nearly 200 million elements of human DNA, more precisely, about 77%, do not appear to serve any obvious function or purpose. This fact has raised many questions. If most of our DNA is not used for building proteins or participating in active cellular processes, then what is its purpose? Why do human organisms retain such a vast portion of genetic material that seems useless from a modern scientific perspective? Considering that evolution explains the development of living beings through natural selection and gradual improvements, the presence of this junk DNA appears to contradict principles of evolutionary theory, or at least raises numerous mysteries. If it is entirely inactive in our biological functions, how could it have ended up in our genome? Why is it present in our DNA? And why do other species also possess similar junk regions? One scientist involved in the Human Genome Decoding Project proposed an unusual and quite bold explanation. He suggested that every non-coding region, every switched-off part of DNA, is evidence of our extraterrestrial origin. In his view, our DNA contains information about the creators, more advanced and higher forms of intelligent beings who participated in the emergence of life on Earth. In other words, humans are not only the product of evolution, but also a kind of genetic inheritance, including from civilizations beyond our planet. Some believe that the ancient gods and creators of humanity from Sumerian mythology, the Anunnaki, may have manifested themselves as guardians and creators of the human species, leaving their traces in our DNA. Scientific research is ongoing and continually supports ancient legends. In 2010, an interesting study was published in the scientific journal Theoretical Population Biology, presenting new data about the so-called mitochondrial Eve. This term refers to the most recent common female ancestor from whom all modern humans descend. Researchers found that this mitochondrial ancestor lived approximately 200,000 years ago, during an era of great civilizations in ancient times. The term Eve symbolizes the first woman from whom the entire current human lineage and all our genetic roots can be traced. Thus, science has long established that the ancestors of modern humans existed long before the rise of well-known civilizations, which, according to historical records, date back to the era of the first megalithic structures and advanced cities. Overall, upon reflection, this information confirms the hypothesis that human origins can only be explained through a complex interplay of internal and external factors. Consequently, the idea that traces of ancient extraterrestrial beings are embedded in our genetic structure becomes a quite plausible hypothesis, supported by recent scientific discoveries and observations. Sumerian manuscripts and ancient texts from Mesopotamia reveal a glimpse into the mystery surrounding human origins and its role in the earliest history of civilization. They mention that these mystical beings, the Anunnaki, leaders of powerful extraterrestrial civilizations, created humans as if acting as creators of a new race. But a quite logical and profound question arises. Is this legend merely a coincidence, or was everything much more serious and significant? Perhaps humans are the result of a complex genetic experiment conducted through the intervention of extraterrestrial intelligent beings aimed at creating slaves to perform difficult and dangerous tasks. Some researchers and historians lean towards the belief that our race was not simply created by chance, but intentionally, specifically for exploiting resources and subordinating to foreign interests. Another intriguing aspect of this hypothetical scenario concerns why this particular planet, Earth, became the focus of the Anunnaki. If we assume that extraterrestrial beings used humans as workers, then the question arises, why was this precious metal, gold, so crucial to them? Why is their lifestyle and technological culture centered around this unique element? According to the hypothesis of Zecharia Sitchin, the Anunnaki had a very specific goal. They did not merely extract gold for jewelry or wealth, but transformed it into a very fine powder, which they lifted into the atmosphere of their own planet, Nibiru, to protect it from destructive cosmic factors. Modern scientific research confirms that gold possesses unique properties that allow it to be used in various technological fields. In this context, one can understand Sitchin's idea of processing gold into the thinnest powder form and dispersing it into the atmosphere. He believed this would provide a shield for the planet against harmful cosmic influences, magnetic storms, radiation, and other potentially dangerous factors. Over time, the ecological situation on Nibiru began to deteriorate, and the environment turned into a zone of constant tension and threat to life. The Anunnaki, of course, could not leave their home unprotected, so measures had to be devised to save their entire civilization. The essence of this hypothesis is that gold particles became a kind of shield, thin yet durable enough to reflect cosmic radiation and safeguard the planet's atmosphere. Interestingly, modern scientific studies are starting to pay attention to such ideas of using gold to address Earth's environmental problems. In 2016, within the framework of the U.S. National Laboratory for Energy Technologies, an innovative process was developed based on the use of gold nanoparticles. Their goal was to purify the air from harmful substances and pollutants. This method involves converting harmful carbon dioxide, CO2, into useful chemical compounds and even fuel, which, according to scientists, opens prospects for creating new technologies that can significantly reduce greenhouse gas emissions and save humanity's atmosphere from irreversible destruction. Scientific research is increasingly focusing on the possibilities of terraforming other planets. One of the tasks is to transform areas of Mars into a more habitable environment resembling Earth's conditions. In this context, the idea of creating an artificial magnetic field capable of protecting colonists from destructive cosmic radiation has become promising and exciting. It was proposed in 2000 by NASA, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration. This system could also contribute to restoring ancient oceans on the Martian surface, making the Red Planet more suitable for permanent human habitation. It is worth noting that today, the process of terraforming Mars has become a popular topic of scientific discussion and debate among leading experts. Among them, one of the most active proponents is entrepreneur Elon Musk, who sees these developments as crucial steps toward humanity's future beyond Earth. It can be assumed that the Anunnaki, if we consider the hypothesis of their existence, could have utilized Earth's resources, including gold, to implement such ideas on their own planet, on their ancient, declining civilization. These reflections are supported by the fact that our understanding of the importance of gold deepens with each year. Modern technological advances confirm how valuable and indispensable this metal is. Its ability to maintain an impeccable shine, resist the effects of time and atmospheric conditions, has made it a key element in the most advanced devices of human technology. In electronics, it is used in a wide range of fields, from manufacturing smartphones and computers to GPS devices. Additionally, current developments are widely applied in the space industry, where material requirements become particularly strict. Gold has high electrical conductivity and resistance to corrosion, making it an essential component in the protection and operation systems of spacecraft and their parts. In vacuum and extreme temperatures, it effectively serves as a highly efficient lubricant, helping mechanical assemblies operate without damage or loss. Thus, the ancient legend of humanity's creation by the Anunnaki is intertwined with modern research and technological developments. Perhaps it is precisely in this gold, precious yet relatively unused natural resource, that the keys to solving age-old mysteries related to the origins of civilizations and the future of humanity are hidden. In conditions where temperature suddenly and sharply changes, gold plays a crucial role as a unique metal capable of reflecting solar radiation. Thanks to these properties, gold helps stabilize the temperature inside various components and structures of spacecraft. This effect is incredibly important in the extreme conditions of outer space, where temperature fluctuations can reach very high values in a very short time. Without this precious metal, many technological systems designed to operate in space would essentially become non-functional, as colored parts of equipment and structural elements of spacecraft would absorb and radiate heat vigorously. As a result, such conditions would make space travel impossible and the launch and operation of space technologies too dangerous and costly. In simpler terms, it is precisely gold's ability to reflect sunlight and withstand destructive thermal radiation that makes modern spaceflights and our space industry as a whole possible. There are interesting claims regarding this. According to experts and alien traditions present in legends, for example, there is an opinion that ancient Anunnaki, representatives of intergalactic civilizations, once came to our planet specifically in search of gold. This necessity, according to records, was driven by the desire to use it to restore the atmosphere of their home planet, which supposedly had suffered or lost its conditions for life. However, it is quite possible that such a story is nothing more than a myth or a fictional tale created by the Anunnaki to justify their conquests, expansion of territory, or covert interference in Earth's affairs. There is a hypothesis that these stories about atmospheric recovery are clever propaganda, serving as a cover for their real intentions, establishing control and exploiting the human race. Some more conspiracy-oriented theories suggest that ancient extraterrestrials were interested in gold precisely to support their alien empire, create their emissaries, or even turn humans into slaves. This entire enigmatic story raises numerous questions, and finding definitive answers today seems unlikely. Suppose, then, that the Anunnaki truly approached Earth in search of this precious metal. A natural question arises: what happened to them afterward? We still have a vast amount of gold on our planet, and its reserves seem sufficient for European, Asian, and American markets. However, perhaps they found another method of extraction or obtained gold through means unknown to us. According to ancient Sumerian texts, most of the recently emerged human population was wiped out during a catastrophic flood described in biblical legends and other ancient stories. After this global upheaval, these sources suggest, the Anunnaki established the Sumerian civilization on Earth, one of the first known cultures, leaving behind a rich legacy. Then, perhaps, they returned to their home planet to observe the course of human development, remotely control the fate of our ancestors, and, according to some theories, continue to monitor us even now. It's possible that their presence and influence are still felt, although hidden behind numerous legends and mysteries. There is also a hypothesis that we, humans, remain essentially prisoners or pawns in this centuries-old game with unseen players, equipped with far more advanced technology and knowledge. Regardless of how much these theories correspond to reality, it remains undeniable that the belief in gold's importance and its impact on human history and culture has been and continues to be compelling. One cannot ignore the fact that the origins of our civilization and its development cannot be fully understood without considering humanity's dependence on and obsession with this noble metal. Gold was first mentioned in the Book of Genesis, where it is called the first valuable substance, and in subsequent centuries it served as the foundation for wealth accumulation and exchange methods. In the modern world, it is gold that continues to play a key role in the global economy, serving essentially as a guarantor of stability, a balancing force, and a reserve for national currencies. For many years, this noble metal has ensured the stability of all paper money in circulation and has served as an unattainable standard of wealth for various states and peoples. But the question arises, why exactly did this shiny metal, initially perceived more as a beautiful decoration or a rare natural phenomenon, become an epical symbol of power and wealth? Perhaps our dependence on gold is based on deeper, ancient secrets rooted in the culture and religion of our ancestors, such as the memory of the Anunnaki civilizations or other ancient peoples. There is no doubt that this metal has become a bearer and guardian of certain encoded knowledge and secrets, which we are only beginning to piece together and understand. Maybe we, humans, are essentially part of an energetic and informational system governed by unseen forces connected to this metal and its magical properties. Still, contemporary reality shows that a system built on gold has become not just a means of accumulating wealth, but a powerful tool of control and subjugation. As a result, can we say that, deep down, we have become slaves to a system largely shaped and maintained precisely by this shining metal? All these questions generate many more, and each of us is only a part of a larger, complex mechanism that may be controlled from the shadows. Thank you for your attention and interest in these mysterious topics.